Okay, can I swear you in if you would just raise your right hand? And do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and to answer council member questions honestly?
Yes.
Okay. Who would like to start? Absolutely.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Yaffed NYC. I'm the founder and executive director of Yaffed, Young Advocates for Fair Education. I was hoping the chancellor would be here so that we could address her. So we're still going to address her.
We have the OE rep here, though. All right. Yep.
Okay, so I hope you'll pass on the message. At this very moment, there are tens of thousands of ultra-Orthodox and Hasidic children attending schools where they're being denied a basic education. Hasidic boys ages 13 and under receive just 90 minutes of instruction, only in English and math, and only 4 days a week. That is a total of 6 hours of secular instruction per week. Boys ages 13 and older receive no secular education at all. That's right, they attend yeshivas for as many as 14 hours a day, from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m., but study exclusively Judaic studies. No English, no math, no science, no social studies, nothing. This is a blatant violation of New York State Education Law, Article 65, Section 3204, which states that instructions given to a minor elsewhere than a public school shall be at least substantially equivalent to the instruction given to minors of like age and attainment at the public schools of the city or district where the minor resides. New York State education guidelines are very explicit that non-public schools must teach English, math, science, history, geography, music, art, physical education, health education, and more. In 2014, we formally informed the chancellor about this in a letter, but she did nothing, claiming not to know where to begin since we didn't name any specific yeshivas. So in July of 2015, we sent a follow-up letter. This time it was signed by 52 yeshiva graduates and parents of current students, and naming 39 yeshivas that do not meet state standards. The chancellor finally announced that the DOE is conducting an investigation. Since then, there have been few signs that a real investigation is taking place. Furthermore, on several occasions, the DOE and the chancellor herself said that a report of the investigation will be produced at the end of spring or beginning of summer of 2016. We're 9 months past that point, yet there's no report and possibly not even an investigation. Anyone who heard the chair, Councilmember Daniel Traum, ask the chancellor before in her response, I didn't go away confident that there's an actual investigation taking place, let alone that there's going to be a report. In fact, on the chancellor's way out, I confronted her and asked her when there would be a report. She said, "You'll just continue getting the same response over and over again." I said, "For how long? 20 years?" There was no response to that. So who knows? It seems like this investigation can take forever. This is an outrageous violation of the law and a callous disregard for the human rights and educational well-being of tens of thousands of children attending schools in this city. I urge the Education Committee to investigate the reluctance of the chancellor to properly investigate these allegations, and I also urge you to set a seven-day deadline for her to produce a report. If she fails to do so, I urge this committee to discipline the chancellor or urge the mayor to replace her immediately for the sake of the helpless children who need a voice, not an enabler. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who would like to go next?
Hello. Unlike my colleague, I had the privilege of completing kindergarten through 12th grade in New York City. Yeah, sorry, my name is Abigail Beatty. I had the privilege of completing kindergarten through 12th grade in New York City public schools. I think many people here had a similar experience, and I want us to think about the wealth of opportunities which our early schooling afforded us. For example, in 6th grade, my class began learning to write 5-paragraph essays. By the time I was accepted to college, I had 7 years of experience with structured academic writing. This allowed me, and many of you, to succeed in higher education and to then secure gainful employment. But just blocks away from me and my public school peers, Hasidic yeshivas where boys finish high school having never heard the word essay. Think about that. What will be their earning capacity? How will they complete job applications or even send emails for their businesses? What sustainable life paths lay ahead for them? Further, outside of work and of school, ask yourselves, could you engage in civic life without a basic knowledge of American history? What would it be like to have never heard of Martin Luther King or the Revolutionary War? Or could you understand a medical diagnosis if you did not know what a cell was? Tens of thousands of intelligent, able children are crippled each year by an absence of secular instruction. Are these children not worthy of the same opportunities we have?
Thank you very much. If the red light is on, then give mark.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mendel Vogel, and I attended a Hasidic yeshiva called Oversight for elementary and high school. I spent 14 years in that school, yet when I completed, I still hadn't learned months of the calendar year. In the yeshiva, we didn't learn English, math, science, history, social studies, nothing. Not even in elementary school. I left yeshiva with no skills, zero preparation for the workforce, or to pursue a higher education. In fact, I'm currently pursuing my high school equivalency on my own, and I'm struggling immensely. I'm not an exception. I did not skip class or behave poorly, and the same is true for thousands of children attending other Hasidic yeshivas across the city. They are all being denied a basic education, and it boggles my mind. How can this happen in this progressive city? How is it fair to be depriving thousands of young boys of the basic tools they need to succeed in life? And this is no secret. I myself have told the Department of Education about this 8 months ago, and it's my understanding that many others have done the same. This is a clear violation of the New York State law, and it does not take a genius to notice. Yet the Chancellor is refusing to properly investigate this and to produce a report. She keeps talking about investigating. I'm here to tell her, and others have told her too, that there's a specific yeshiva in Crown Heights in Brooklyn called Oversight that is not providing any secular education at all. Why can't she just go and enforce the law in that school, even while continuing to investigate the others? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Chaim, and I'm also here to talk about the important human rights issue of the lack of secular education at Hasidic yeshivas. As a teenager, grew up in the Hasidic community in Williamsburg. To me, this issue is extremely personal. In Hasidic elementary and middle school, we had only an hour and a half of very low-level English and arithmetic. The most advanced math I was ever taught was division, never even fractions. In my Hasidic high school, during my 13 hours in yeshiva daily, we only studied religious texts such as the Talmud and Torah, and no secular studies whatsoever. Throughout all my years in Hasidic school, we never learned any science, history, social studies, art, literature, health, or any math beyond arithmetic. The vast majority of my Hasidic friends have never even heard of words such as algebra, math, or biology. Despite most of them already being the third generation of being studying, they can barely communicate in English. I had to sacrifice so much to be where I am now. When I decided that I wanted to receive a secular education at age 15, I immediately realized that the only schools available are ones outside of the community. In addition to losing almost all my childhood friends, and being considered an outcast in my community when I finally left my Hasidic yeshiva, I also faced legal challenges. I was told that as a minor, I legally couldn't even change schools without my parents' consent. I was shocked to learn that a legal system would require me to stay in a school that teaches absolutely no secular studies and violates state education requirements. Although after a long, difficult struggle, I was eventually able to attend a school outside the community. Most children in the community are not as fortunate. A few of my Hasidic friends have secretly shared with me their dream to learn math, science, or English. But for them, attending a school outside of the community is not even an option. They are afraid of losing their friends, afraid it's too late and they won't be able to catch up with their studies, afraid of the culture shock that they face. And most importantly, they are afraid of not having their parents' permission and being ostracized with their family and their community for wanting a secular education. They want a secular education, but they are denied it. The only way they, or at least the ones younger than them, could receive the education they deserve is by having those subjects that are already required by law taught within their community schools. I came to the Chancellor on this panel to think about those children. Imagine where you would now be had you been taught the basic skills needed for your future that those children are currently being denied. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. And I have met with most of them in the past on this issue. I'd say we probably met almost 2 years ago. I think it was July of 15, if I'm not mistaken. It It took us several months of work to get the Department of Education to even begin to investigate or look into this matter. And we are deeply concerned as a committee that we have not yet received any report from them. And we have met with them on other occasions as well on this issue to try to push it. I want to state that your testimony, this panel's testimony, is very compelling, as were your letters to the DOE documenting the lack of a secular education in some of these yeshivas. I want to commend your courage for coming in and for speaking out on this issue, because by doing so, you're saving lives. And I want to reiterate that is probably the most important thing here, because from the discussions that I've had with Naftuli, I was shocked to learn of the lack of a secular education or an education equivalent to what students are receiving in the public school system, and it's not even minimal. When I met with Mr. Moster, with Naftuli, he told me that he basically left school not even speaking English well, and that much of the English that he knows now was learned outside of the yeshiva system, outside of the yeshiva schools that he attended. This is unacceptable. And there are particular religious and cultural concerns that enter into this as well, and we want to be respectful of that. And Mr. Monster has told me that it's not his intention to knock down or to destroy those religious traditions or those cultures, but just to provide students with a secular education equivalent to what the public school students are receiving as well. So that being said, I'm wondering, Mr. Monster, if you could tell us a little bit about the differences between the Hasidic and the ultra-Orthodox communities, why they are doing differently than other yeshivas, because it's not every yeshiva that we're talking about, and how education is different for boys and for girls in the yeshiva system.
Sure, thank you. So you're right, the ultra-Orthodox community is a pretty wide spectrum. There are two major groups under the ultra-Orthodox umbrella. One is called Hasidic, one is the Litvish. The Litvish community, which is probably half the size of the Hasidic community in New York at least, they tend to provide a better education to both boys and girls, although that is beginning to shift, which is problematic as well. But within the Hasidic community, which is skyrocketing, the Hasidic community is probably the fastest growing in New York State, definitely New York City. We're projecting that by 2030, 30% of Brooklyn's youth might be Hasidic and getting the kind of education we're describing. So within the Hasidic community, the problem tends to be mostly with the Hasidic boys. Girls tend to get a better education, mainly because they're expected to become homemakers, housewives, and even earners, while the men continue to pursue rabbinical studies. So that is the key difference, just so that we all understand. But what is happening with the Hasidic boys is probably a lot of people have heard about, failing public schools. We always hear about that, but even failing public schools provide an education. Maybe kids aren't performing as well as we'd like. Maybe they're not graduating at the rates that we'd like. Here we're talking about a system where the yeshivas simply aren't teaching. They're not teaching what the law requires them to teach, and the city and state actually are not bothering to enforce it. An interesting thing for people to know is that nearly 100% of Hasidic boys do not graduate with a high school diploma. They just finish yeshiva not having learned any of the required subjects. So there's no high school diploma, and as you've heard from my colleagues, it takes a lot of time and effort to actually go and pursue one on your own, because they don't even have the tools necessary to just go out there and get a GED. As you may know, Hasidic boys don't grow up with TV, movies, radio, or even secular newspapers, so they don't even learn much outside of the classroom, especially when they spend 12 to 14 hours a day in yeshiva. When you mentioned that I've learned English, I've picked up a little bit from my sisters. I have quite a few sisters, and they communicate in English, as well as after I left yeshiva, which was about 10 years ago. So over the past 10 years, I managed to catch up a little bit.
This is a hearing basically on the budget as well. I didn't get around to asking the department, but maybe you could help me understand a little bit better as well. I believe that many of the yeshivas in question, and I think when you wrote the letter, you identified, I forget the number of schools. 39 schools across 8 districts?
7 districts.
7 districts that you've received complaints or forwarded complaints to the Department of Education on this issue. But I believe that of those schools, most of those schools do receive NYSCL money, New York State textbook loan money. How is that money used in the schools?
Honestly, I don't know. This has been a big problem for us to try to gather data on the money, on the levels of education, some of which we believe the city Department of Education has, but we've done FOIA requests and we haven't gotten any responses. What we do know is that yeshivas get, from what I understand, a disproportionate amount of Title I, Title III, and keep in mind, Title III is an ESL kind of program, and we're talking about Hasidic boys who are third-generation Americans. They wouldn't need it if the yeshivas provided a proper education. Another thing about Title I is that it has stipulation that it's supposed to supplement an existing program. It's not supposed to supplant it. But in many Hasidic yeshivas, that's exactly what it's doing, because there's only 90 minutes, and that's where the Title I money goes for. But you're right, they also get a lot of state funding for, busing, lunch, textbooks, and so forth, as well as child care vouchers. So we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to these non-public schools. I should say hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. And it's one thing.
And very soon the council is going to be providing, if they haven't already started, security guards in these schools.
Right. So just adding all of that up, including that, I should also mention non-public schools still do charge tuition, and they also get private charity contributions. So if you add it all up, yeshivas do have a lot of money. So I know some leaders in the community try to say, well, we don't have the money to provide a proper education. That is bogus in several ways, because first of all, the girls' schools, the segregated schools, the girls' schools operate on the same budget, and they manage to provide a much better secular education. But also, they do have a lot of money, and they're just not using it correctly. So there's a problem with prioritization.
Well, I have other panels coming up, so I'm going to have to kind of end it here. But let me just say as well, every Jewish leader that I've spoken to, without exception, has told me that we're on the right track to continue to pursue this issue, although many of them fear actually speaking out on this issue themselves. And that's why I admire your courage for coming in today and exposing this issue for us. And we look forward to continuing to work with you on shining a light on this subject again in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.